One of the shakiest AI coding hot takes right now is this. Let the agent handle the context. The code is the context. You really don't need to review the AI code. Um, let's not efficient until you watch same model building a wrong solution, introducing bloating, introducing anti-patterns, and most likely, in many cases, it also lies with perfect confidence level. The real maturity in AI-assisted development is not giving an agent that one giant zero-shot task and trusting the long context window. This is all good for marketing, but when it comes to real enterprise development or real enterprise application development, the maturity is proven by that durable context with the small and precise changes, multiple life cycle changes, reviewing the differences and iterating while preserving the integrity of the code base. At least we are preserving the integrity of the code base as the human progress with any SDLC. And of course, after a couple of years, we find the code base is bloated and we always do the refactoring to bring it back to the reasonable levels. We do expect the same with the AI as well. Agent can help to consume context, but it cannot magically rediscover the rules that were never made explicit to it. So just to explain this point and break the myth and this whole sort of a nonsense going on with many people are just suggesting coming, even very reputed people are coming and say, you know what, just throw the prompt and get the AI do your engineering. This would be a perfect example. So stay tuned for maybe 4 or 5 minutes and it will give you a very good insight into what I'm talking about. This is one of the example which I demonstrate during my training sessions or for consultation sessions as well sometime. And this particular course is going to come out sooner or in a couple of weeks anyways, but the examples are available, so I'll probably share the link of example as well so everyone can walk through along with me. But here is what I did. In simple experiment, I created the same code base with two contexts. One is with context and one is without context. They both hold the same source code. And I'm going to ask the same thing for them to perform. So they both has the same code base and I'm going to ask same thing to them, which I already did, by the way. And I have captured the output. So this is the first output. I'm going to show you that we did. So this is the Copilot CLI output we did. And based on that, we analyzed everything as well. And this was a prompt that we passed to it. The same way we captured the Copilot, for the without context here. And also we passed the same prompt. So they both has the same prompt to process. Nothing different in there. And one is with context, which is basically a simple GitHub instruction file that let it explore some documentation in architecture and menu review escalation, what we are looking for. Now, very quickly, because I don't want to waste a lot of time, when we actually compare this particular part, what we found, this is the simple comparison that we found, and this is where the real striking difference that everyone should see is number one, how it bloated. It should have very simply add a routing without introducing new endpoints, but without context, it did introduce a new endpoint. And by the way, the both work perfectly fine. If we just put a human at the testing, they cannot tell a difference, and it was functionally working fine. But underneath the functional bare bones, it developed and it delivered the solution with a good versus bad engineering practices, and this is what it's going to look like. So it introduced a new file, a new endpoint itself. The with context created within the right file, but without it created a new file. The orchestration also observed the same, created a new file and introduced the whole new orchestration. One of the other area is it also introduced a new state, which we never asked. right? So this kind of a thing could actually have a ripple effect if you got, let's say, if you got this data moving into your data pipelines, and your data engineering team look for certain type of status, etc. Your reports are based on certain status, or etc. Or even your AI machine learning algorithm look for certain status to identify the risk, or suggestions, or anything that you want to do with it. And this is where all it start is AI is making decision that it never supposed to make decisions. What's shocking as well, it also introduced a new database table. It was not good enough and smart enough to understand that it can actually use existing database table with some tweaks. So with context, it did, but without context, it didn't. And overall, with context, it meet all of my 14 out of 14 expectation. Without context, it hardly met 4.5 out of my 14 expectation. I will leave a GitHub link for you. It's in a particular branch, but feel free to go into it. It's pretty much open. And if you see where I'm saying a bloating, it will look here. So this is the without context patch file, the demo patch file, and this is with context demo patch file. Oh, sorry, it's also without context. Let me see. Yeah, this is a with context demo patch file. And if you see the with context, it achieved the same objective with 109 lines. And without context, it achieved the same objective, same outcome in 1075, which is roughly around, you're talking about 90% additional code, which functionally redundant or not required. However, it achieved, both example achieve perfect functional use cases. And this is where those arguments, or people who are passing those arguments in terms of marketing, or coming and giving the sensational statement in sort of what we call it, this sort of things that happening right now, podcast and all sort of nonsense thing keep happening. They have no clue what they are doing either, or they have just a commercial interest in the site. I don't believe they don't understand, but I think we have to now start taking those blanket statement and a statement without any good backing and evidences as probably a marketing gimmicks. AI-assisted engineering is nowhere near, as I said, perfection without a good human cultivation of context. Without a proper human ring fencing, AI cannot deliver what we expect to deliver. And this is exactly move forward and develop the slop that we are talking about. However, with a full confidence, I'm sharing that I use 90% or more code generated by AI. But that is not a lazy part by just throwing something to the best model available, but actually working and meaningfully understand that what I'm passing it to AI and what it is generating back to me. And I'm also getting a multifold overall productivity. But it is not as it sounds, and as it is not as it been claimed by those podcasts. AI is serious. We need to understand it, but we need to understand it before we apply it. And that's I think the bottom line I want to leave you guys with there. But feel free. It's an interesting one, and I will share this link for you as well. I also did some comparison over here, and feel free to look into it, what it looks like, what it is. Yeah, and I think this one is a good also, the change file. So this many files it introduced, and for with context it introduced this many files. So with context it managed to get it just within the 2 modified files. This is how the human should do. And without context it actually take this many files. So this is in front of you what we did and how we achieved. Thank you for listening to me, and feel free to drop any comments, questions, anything along with the code. Thank you.